Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Welcome. Hare Krishna. Now, this morning, I was reading something that I read many times before that somehow or other I was avoiding in my interest in discussing philosophy, which was, Prabhupada said, doesn't matter where you came from, you're here now. And we may not be able to understand origin, but it's interesting. And you see that there's some confusion. There's lots of discussion about this and some confusion sometimes. Where do we fall from? How did we fall? How could we? You know, all the questions we've been asking. And Prabhupada is answering it. And as you look at his answer, many of the things Prabhupada's saying are interesting. Like he was saying, you were in Leela, you were in Leela with Krishna, you fell from Leela with Krishna, and then later he said everything is Krishna's Leela, there can't only be Krishna. Okay, what did he mean by that? There's only Krishna, I must have fallen from Krishna Leela. Does that mean I wasn't physically in Vaikuntha? And and then he says other things which seem to be different than he said earlier, and he ends it by saying, you're not going to understand this. So, that's always a way out for a teacher. Oh, you'll never understand, don't ask that question. Something like that. So, we're going to see where this takes us. I'm going to have some discussions with some pundits about this, just to see what their contemplation is. But one thing we've been consistently saying, and we know to be true, is exactly what Prabhupada's saying, is that it doesn't really matter, but it matters to know that we did make a free will choice to be put here, or to be something, well, not exactly a free will choice to come to prison, but we made a free will choice to do and think in ways that would put us in prison, and here we are. And it was a bad choice. And I've always been saying that. And Prabhupada, what I was reading this morning was saying that also. Those two things. Well, three things. Wherever you fell from, you're not there, you're here. Get out, you may... it's not that important where you fell from because you're here. You may not be able to understand it. It's kind of... he was basically saying it's inconceivable. More or less inconceivable, or somewhat inconceivable, or somewhat difficult to understand, seeing that we see there are different views on this, and that it doesn't matter. And you can speculate about where you came from. He said, "Well, better put your energy into getting out of here." So, that being said, it would make it, in a sense, our effort to really get into this topic would be a little bit in disobedience of what Prabhupada is saying, and don't get so into it. But definitely get into why we're here, I think, is extremely important, because we have to... Why we came here, the reason we came here, has to be reversed to get out of here. We came for the wrong reason, and so we have to not... And if we, why can't I talk this morning? We came here for the wrong reason. And so that wrong reason has to be shifted into the right reason. And if we're going to get out of here, then the very thing that caused us to come here the dial has to be shifted 180 degrees. And the reason we're still here is because the reason we came here is the reason we're still, the reason we came here remains still to be the reason of our existence. And if that reason for existence, raison d'être, if that reason doesn't change, we stay here. And so we have to change that reason for our existence. So the reason for our existence here is, as you know, we turned our back to Krishna. We have to change that, otherwise we stay. That's the point. That's the most essential point. And having established that, it should just be if some discussion comes up and we're reading That should become kind of like the theme behind it all is, what is the mentality? And also, the idea, sometimes we say, well, if I was with Krishna, why would I leave him? Doesn't make sense. But even if I wasn't with Krishna, why wouldn't I want to be with him? That doesn't make sense either, right? If you're Tatastha in a neutral position and you could choose Krishna or you could choose Maya, and as is argued, no, you were never with Krishna and Leela, but you could choose him or you could choose Maya. Why would you not choose him? That doesn't make sense either. Why would you choose Maya? So the answer is you choose Maya because you want to imitate Krishna. Okay, that doesn't make sense. If we knew how much we would suffer, even if we knew, we couldn't know until we actually came here and suffered, but we wouldn't really know. We wouldn't really understand how much suffering we're experiencing. Unless, didn't Krishna tell us, or didn't we know, and how could you make a choice if you didn't know? But sometimes people tell you, but you still don't know because you won't know until you experience it. And we see this in the material world a lot of times. Someone is about to do something and their friends say, don't do that. I've done it before. You're not going to be happy, or you're going to suffer, or it's not going to work, or you're going to struggle. And then, no, I just have this desire to do it. I really want to try. No, don't try. It's a dirty industry. It's a dirty job. You'll have to denigrate yourself. No, I just want to try. I'll do it. And the people who are telling him that have experience that he doesn't, so he can't understand. So then he does it, and then he gets their experience. So now I understand. So sometimes we say, well, why did we choose something if it was so bad? Well, we didn't know how bad it was going to be because we couldn't conceive of it, because we hadn't experienced it. But if that desire is there, Krishna lets you experience it with the intention that you realize, oh yeah, that was a bad choice. I shouldn't have made that. I should have chosen Krishna. And as we've discussed over and over again, and I think it's so evident from our experience in life, that if the living entity who turns away from Krishna could find real, or what he considers to be real happiness. Of course, sometimes we consider suffering to be happiness. But as long as he can find happiness, or he can consider himself, perceive even the suffering as happiness, he's not going to be that motivated to renounce sense gratification and do the austerity necessary to take up Krishna consciousness. We were talking yesterday how amazing the spiritual world is, and how the austerity that we have to take is not very great. Right? Remember that? The best deal in town, the best price. For a small price, you get a big reward. But most people, they're not interested in the reward. They're interested in becoming God. Here, they're not interested in going back to Godhead. And so that's why they'll tolerate suffering, because they have hopes that beyond the suffering, there's some kind of unadulterated happiness. And Maya leads them on to believe it. No, you did suffer, but keep working because you'll get there. There is happiness. There is this state. It's sattva guna. That's the only state where you'll get any kind of real enduring happiness in the material world. But people think it's in rajaguna. So Maya illusions them to think, no, you're playing your cards wrong. There is unending, unadulterated happiness. Or at least there is more than you're getting, and there's a lot more sense gratification available to you, but you have to do A, B, and C. And so because they haven't come to this point where they realize that that's not true, or they've suffered enough to realize that it's not true, that they're still here. And Krishna is saying, Krishna's arranging for material energy to create problems so that we will look and say, there's a lot of problems here. This is not right. There must be something better, different. Why would God create me and send me into a very depressing situation? The problem is There's two problems. One problem is some people are so covered by passion and ignorance that just they don't think that way. The other problem is, as we know, there are a lot of people that think that way, but they don't have knowledge, just like all of us, right? Who become devotees, we all thought that way, but we didn't know how to get out of it because we didn't have knowledge. And then we met the devotees, we read Prabhupada's books, then we learned how to get out of it. So that's the other problem, and that's why Prabhupada was so, he was so, what's the word I'm using for? So focused, so determined, so enthusiastic, so dedicated to preaching, because he knew those people were out there, and he knew if they got this knowledge, it would be like a little spark of fire falling on very dry grass, and it would ignite. But he also knew that people in that condition, if they get some form of watered-down spirituality or completely false spirituality, because it will promise relief from material suffering, they may take to it and become disillusioned. Or they may take to it and think it is the real thing, it's real spirituality, it's real enlightenment, and they're misguided, and they don't achieve Krishna consciousness. So that thought, I find, to be very motivating for us as devotees who are meant to teach people about Krishna, that there's plenty of people out there who have become materially exhausted. There's lots of them. It's what the world is supposed to do. The world puts you in this machine, and it's supposed to throw you out the other end saying, okay, I've had it, that's enough. I once watched this documentary. I was so interested in watching this. It was a documentary on a convent in America. And it was especially geared towards why women become nuns. And it was just interviews with many, many women and telling their stories. And if you had your eyes closed and you didn't know it was a convent, you would think it was devotees telling stories about how they became devotees. It was completely identical. 100%. And of course, they join the convent, they do austerity, they chant, they wake up early. Unfortunately, their diet is not vegetarian. But my point is that this world brings people to that place. You talk to people many people who've been converted religiously, that's their story. I was looking for something, I wasn't satisfied. I was praying to God, I knew there was more. I went to my church, I asked them, they didn't have the right answers. It's like so many people are like that. And they're waiting, and Prabhupada said they're waiting on every street corner. There's devotees on every street corner waiting for us. So it's like Krishna is putting everyone in this machine to get to suffer. So they start asking, and then they're just waiting for us to come and say, here, this is how you get out of it. So, we should never think, why did Krishna do this and why must we suffer? Because it's obvious from preaching that if you meet someone who doesn't realize the nature of this world through experience or through intelligence, you realize you can't really talk to them. You can't really communicate with them. They won't understand. No, everything's nice, I like it, I'm very happy. And you're trying to say, no, there's birth, old age, whatever. Like we were saying yesterday, the father of a devotee said, next birth, but this life was good, so I'm pious in this life, so why not? I'm happy to take another birth. This have like so many answers, or I don't believe in the next life, or you might become a dog. Well, I don't care. Being a dog wouldn't be so bad, especially if you're a French poodle in Beverly Hills. It'd be kind of nice, right? Probably you don't want to become a French poodle anywhere. Beverly Hills is nicer than the poor part of town, but people think that way. You know that, and so you can't talk to them. And so if you ask, why did Krishna create suffering? You know from your own experience as a preacher why he created it, because those are the only people that you can preach to. The other ones are like, you get frustrated. Like, why can't you understand what I'm saying? It's so clear. No, I'm happy. Everything's fine. They're like, I don't really care about all this. And we're thinking, why is he thinking like this? Why can't he understand the obvious? But he can't. He's not ready for it. He's not there yet. He hasn't, the machine of the material world hasn't beat him up enough. He's still very optimistic. Go get it. Go do it. You can do it. Focus, determination, get what you want. Universe will reciprocate. Go for it. Live your life to the fullest. There's so many people like that. Those are not our customers. Right? You agree? Yes. Even if you don't agree, it's our philosophy, so you should agree. Anyway, I think this is important. You know from experience, you can't really help somebody who doesn't understand the nature of this world. And that's why Krishna made it this way. So, because it's the only way people will understand. People are not intelligent enough to just sit down and read about the nature of this world, the nature of consciousness, the nature of the conditioned soul, and then realize, oh yeah, I should become renounced and austere. It's Kali Yuga. If very few people, unless they practice spiritual life in their past, very few people will come to that conclusion. But through suffering, then they can do it. Then they come to that conclusion. It's just a fact. And, these questions are very interesting when people say, why did Krishna do this? I don't understand why he does that. It doesn't seem right that he does it. Wouldn't it be better if he did it this way? All those kinds of questions are very presumptuous because it puts us in a position like we're saying, well, if I was God, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, well, if you were God, you wouldn't be thinking like the way you're thinking now. Hello? If you were God, you would know everything. So if you were God, guess what? You would do what Krishna does. Of course you would, because you know everything. Well, if I were God, I wouldn't do that. That's not right. Yeah, because you're a limited living entity, so you don't understand everything. So to question, why would Krishna do that? It doesn't seem right, is quite a foolish thing. Because obviously he has the whole picture. And obviously he's probably a little more intelligent than we are, so he probably understands things just a little better than we do. So yeah, he probably is a little smarter than us, and therefore we don't question with it doesn't seem right type of thing. We question, okay, I have to understand in my limited understanding, it doesn't seem right. And so I'm questioning, okay, I know it's right. It has to be right. I can't doubt that, but I don't understand it. Let me try to understand why Krishna is doing this or saying this or arranging situations like this. That's how, as devotees, we have to think. Not that, well, that doesn't seem right. Why does he do that? If I were God, I wouldn't do that. That's don't think like that. That's not good. Just think, I don't understand, that's fine. Let me understand why. And make the presumption that obviously he understands, he knows everything, he knows what's best for us. And everything is within our own self-interest. And so, just like sometimes a child misbehaves and the parents will punish them, not necessarily physically, but they may restrict them. Okay, you've did this, we told you not to do it, okay, we're not letting you go out, like for the next month, you're just not going out. You go to school, you come back, that's it. We don't trust you. And you say, that's really harsh, that's really unkind, that's really unfair, it's really unjust, whatever. But the parents know it's the only way to stop this kid from doing what he's doing, because everything else we tried didn't work. So Krishna's a bit like that. It seems sometimes, why would he make someone suffer? It seems unfair. And Krishna knows, because it's the only thing. We've tried everything else. We've given him the books. We gave him association. Still, he's so attached to sense gratification. Nothing works. So we had to give him the slap in the face, and that worked. And as the parents, it's often said, when the parents slap the child in the rear end, they say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. I don't want to do this. It hurts me to have to punish you. But it's going to hurt me more if I don't, because if I don't punish you, your life is going to be a mess. So that's Krishna also, He doesn't want us to suffer, but if he can't convince us any other way, this is how he convinces us, and it hurts him more than it hurts us. It's just the way it is. Isn't there a song like that? That's just the way it is. Is there? Or did I just make up the song? That's just the way it is. Maybe we need the experience of material world to appreciate Krishna and his love more. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, you could say, make a generalization. We need the experience of the material world to rectify our perverted mentality, and however that experience manifests. Krishna manifested slightly differently for each of us, but Krishna manifests it in a way that will help us, because he knows us individually, and he knows individually what we need, so he can manifest the specific remedy. Okay, for you, I'm mixing 2 hits in the head, 1 stomach ache, and 1 friend turning against you. That's about the right dose for you. That should bring you to Krishna consciousness. That should help you understand. And he looks at us in our pathetic condition of trying to get out of the material world, and he said, okay, let me mix up a little, horrible relationship here, failed attempt here at this success, let me mix all this up. Okay, here it is. I think that'll work for you. That'll convince you that you should just chant your rounds and stop playing with Maya. So he knows. And then we're thinking, oh, he's a devotee. Why is he suffering? He's not supposed to suffer. And Krishna's like, no, Krishna mixed the medicine up. This is what he needs. Krishna knows the right medicine you need. I think that's another good one for a daily video. We're going to change the daily videos. We call it daily quotes, but that was because I was quoting before. Now I'm just talking, not always quoting. So we're going to call it Living the Wisdom of Bhakti, if I have your permission to call it that. Krishna mixes up the right medicine. The right medicine. The right medicine, which is suffering. Just the right amount of suffering to help you. Wow, that's scary. Now, raise your hand if you like to suffer. Okay, no one raised their hand. Well, maybe one of you has some emotional problem you like to suffer, but normally nobody likes to suffer. So I have a solution if you don't want to suffer. Do austerity. Austerity is voluntary suffering. That's what Prabhupada defines austerity, tapasya. Tapasya is the Sanskrit for austerity. Austerity may have various connotations in the material context, but in the spiritual context, Prabhupada defines it as voluntary suffering for, try to say that fast, voluntary suffering for the sake of spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna. That's Prabhupada's definition. Voluntary suffering for the sake of spiritual advancement. Now, that's an interesting concept, but we're talking about how you have to suffer. There has to be some suffering, so the intelligence kicks in and says, why? This is not right. Intuitively, as the soul, we're not attuned to suffering, so it doesn't make sense, and we start thinking. So suffering helps, and austerity is a kind of suffering. Even just eating prasadam is a kind of suffering. There's certain things you can't eat. You'll never be able to eat again because they have eggs in them or onions, garlic, or whatever. So that's a kind of austerity. And rising early when you'd rather not be awake is a kind of austerity. And being clean is an austerity. And all these things are austerities. But the beauty of austerity is if you do the austerity, then Krishna doesn't have to put you in a position of suffering because you're already creating enough of your own suffering to get purified. Isn't that interesting? And the suffering of austerity is always less painful than the suffering of the material world that Krishna may have to arrange to knock some sense into your head. So you say, voluntary suffering, that sounds like crazy. But it's suffering which is purification, so-called suffering. And a lot of devotees like tapasya, so for them it's not suffering. But let me frame this in another way, or another way you can avoid suffering is if you don't do what Krishna wants you to do and you're a devotee, Krishna will somehow or other find a way to get you to do it. And one way he may find to get you to do it is to cause situations where you have no choice. And in doing that, he may cause you to suffer by trying to avoid him or do something he doesn't want you to do. And every time you do that, you run into a wall, you suffer, and then you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But then you do the right thing. Now, obviously, if you would have done the right thing in the beginning, Krishna wouldn't have had to have had you. Krishna wouldn't have to have you run into walls. There'd be no need because you weren't doing the wrong thing. So when we do the wrong thing and there's suffering, that's Krishna's mercy. But if you don't want to suffer, if you don't like suffering, which we all don't, just don't do the wrong thing, then Krishna won't have to cause the suffering to force you to do the right thing because you did the right thing in the beginning. That's personally how I have always looked at this situation. I don't want to suffer. I know from my own experience that if I go off course, Krishna's going to do something to push me back, and sometimes in order to push me back, it has to be a bit of a slap, a smash, a humiliation, deflation of false ego, or some just intense material suffering. But if I follow what he says, he doesn't have to do that, and he won't do it, and then I avoid that suffering. So if you don't want to suffer, do what Krishna wants you to do. Because if you don't and you're a devotee, he will cause some situation to push you back. A little suffering, a little slap, big one, whatever you require. And do the austerity. Take the pain in a way that's going to be immediately beneficial. So that is my preamble to today's class. That was only a half-hour introduction. But I get inspired sometimes. Now, the half-hour introduction tends to increase when I read all your comments. So let me see. I'm trying not to miss anything. Marco says, when we are Krishna conscious, we experience our true spiritual nature, and everything is revealed. Yes, there's no way to ask questions like, where did we fall from? Everything is revealed by the power of Krishna consciousness and bhakti. So these questions, from a mental stage, they're not necessary. Srila Prabhupada said that. And Prabhupada, you know what's interesting? What's so interesting is that a lot of times there are explanations for things, but when you ask Prabhupada to explain them, he says it will all be revealed to you, which is on one hand, it's a polite way of saying you can't understand, and on the other hand, it's like saying you don't need to understand it now; it's not relevant, and therefore, when it's relevant, Krishna will reveal it to you when you're qualified to know and when you need to know. And in some cases, the answer is it'll be revealed means maybe it'll never be revealed because you'll never need to know. I mean, it could mean many things, but there are definitely questions which Prabhupada didn't like. Like, why are you asking this question? What's the point? Why do you need to know this? This morning I was reading, a devotee was asking about Raganuga-Bhakti, and in Raganuga-Bhakti, you follow in the footsteps of a resident of Braja in a particular rasa. Obviously, each resident is in a particular rasa, and so when you're attracted to a particular rasa, at that stage, you start hearing specifically about a resident of Braj in that rasa and try to understand and feel and develop their moods, their thinking, their attitudes. That's the practice of Raganuga-Bhakti, and that Lord Chaitanya came to give Raganuga-Bhakti. So then it would seem, because Lord Chaitanya came to give Raganuga-Bhakti, it would seem that is a practice we should all be cultivating or trying to cultivate. Like what rasa am I in? Who am I attracted to? What is their mood? And I think for most devotees, they haven't really thought about that. Some have, but some haven't. And some don't even know what Raganuga-Bhakti is. And some know what it is, but they actually don't understand it that well. I've heard different devotees explain it, and I realized, I studied it fairly well, and I realized it's not an easy subject, and a lot of devotees don't understand it entirely. And I can't say I understand it entirely perfectly, But having studied it and discussed it, I realized that I probably understand it a little better than those who haven't gotten into it. So I was seeing that some don't even know what it is, have heard about it, but they're not sure. Some know what it is, but they haven't gone in depth in the understanding. And they're devotees that understand it way better than I do. Because it's, there's books on it. And I haven't read everything in all those books. So they understand it better because they've read all the books. And so Prabhupada was asked, this is interesting, there are books on this topic, and Prabhupada saying we should practice Raganuga-Bhakti. Lord Chaitanya came to give this is the method to go to Braj, and it seems very clear this is what you're supposed to do. And then the devotee asked Prabhupada about Raganuga-Bhakti and the whole thing, and my relationship, and how I should follow in the footsteps, and how do we do that, and et cetera, et cetera. Prabhupada said, don't worry about it, it'll all be revealed. So there were a lot of things, I would say a lot of questions, but there were questions about rasa and questions about Raganuga-Bhakti and a few other difficult questions, and Prabhupada would just say, it'll be revealed when you're ready. You don't have to worry. What's my rasa? It'll be revealed. And sometimes Prabhupada said, or I will reveal it to you. So the general tendency of Prabhupada's answers, aside from philosophically explaining what is Raganuga-Bhakti, what is rasa, is that you just follow me and everything will come in time the way it should. And so you won't be left out in left field. Oh my God, I've been a devotee for like 3 lifetimes. I still don't know my rasa and I'm still not practicing Raganuga-Bhakti. We never got that impression from Prabhupada. We got the impression is you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it. It will be revealed either by Krishna or by me. So that's nice to know. How do we get on that topic? Marco was talking about how, the Prabhupada was saying, what was he saying? Certain things aren't necessary. And when we say that, we might think, no, but it is necessary. But also what Prabhupada means is it's not necessary now for your spiritual advancement. And whatever is necessary for your spiritual advancement will be revealed by Krishna in due course. So partially saying it's not necessary just means you won't fully understand it now. It's not necessary, or it's not necessary at this moment for your Krishna consciousness, and or when it's necessary, it will be revealed to you. So that's another way of understanding. Whatever I don't understand now that's necessary to understand, I will understand when I'm qualified to understand it. And if I don't understand it now, maybe it means I'm not qualified to understand it. Maybe it means it's not important for me to understand it now. And maybe when I'm qualified, Krishna will reveal and make it very clear. I was reading this morning things Prabhupada said about the fall of the jiva, and the more I read, the more I was becoming exasperated, because it seemed that he was saying things that weren't said by previous acharyas, but he was saying in a way which it wasn't, not that he wasn't saying what they were saying, it was just, I'd read something, why did he say that? That seems to contradict the previous acharyas. That in the next sentence he says something else that seemed to contradict what he just said, and I'm thinking, I don't understand exactly. There's more to this that I need to understand. And so sometimes it's like that. You meditate on it, you chant, you pray, you go deeper, you go deeper, you go deeper. And then Prabhupada, he said, you come from Krishna Loka, you come from Brahman, and then he's acknowledging, there's different people say different things, and he's acknowledging the confusion, and so then I'm saying to you, I don't understand, and some of you are saying, but you're my guru and you don't understand. I need a new guru. It's not like that. It's just that the transcendental nature of is so vast and big. It's like you can find different ways to understand things, and certain things are achintya that nobody understands, except maybe Jiva Goswami, and nobody can understand its explanation. I mean, sometimes it's like that. Then you ask 10 devotees, did you read this purport of Jiva Goswami? What did it mean? And they give you 10 different explanations. Now, what does that mean? It means the vastness of the spiritual. It's so big, there's 10 different explanations. Then in the material sense, 10 different explanations means 9 are wrong and 1 is right, or it means 10 are wrong and none are right. And in the spiritual, it means 10 are right and none are wrong, even though they're all different. So that sometimes the confusion is, why did this Acharya say that and he said that, and we're trying to understand. Sometimes it's a chinta you can't understand, but they're both right. Is that okay? Are you more confused than ever? I came to a class to learn something, and now I just found out there's things I can't understand. No. Here's the way I look at it. Krishna is unlimited. If you could understand Krishna perfectly, that means he's not unlimited. Practically speaking, the material universe, what to speak of the spiritual, for us is unlimited. We can't calculate the length and breadth of it. We can't know everything. So how are we going to understand the spiritual, which is both unlimited and in another dimension of which we have no experience? So to sometimes say, I don't understand, is a good thing. It just proves that it's transcendental. It's so transcendental. Krishna consciousness is so transcendental. Krishna's dancing with the gopis in this intimate exchange. It's, I don't understand. It's a boy and a girl. And how is it love? And Krishna's touching your breast. And that's like, I don't understand. Of course you don't understand. You won't understand until you are completely pure. So the fact that you don't understand, if you could understand Krishna Lila from day one, that means Krishna Lila would be material. Because day one, you can only understand material. So to say I don't understand is not a bad thing. To say I don't understand, it means that the transcendental nature is dynamic and unlimited. And no matter how much you understand, there's always like another level that's, oh my God, I didn't know about that. Let me think about that. That's the beauty of it. You know, and so it's like Krishna understands himself, and the next moment he doesn't because he's just expanded. So, you know, if someone says, I don't understand something, it doesn't mean he doesn't understand it. It just means there's a vastness to the spiritual that sometimes can't be just fit in a box. That it's got so many nuances to it. And just when you think you've understood it, you find out there's something more to it. But that's the beauty of it. You know, if day one you understood everything, you'd be bored now. You would have left Krishna consciousness long ago. Oh, this is boring. I understood everything the first day. It's nothing new, right? The beauty of Krishna consciousness is you understood a little the first day and you understood a little more, and now your 10th year you understand more, and your 50th year you understand more, and eternally you will understand more, which is quite a concept. And eternally you'll be happier. I was happy. I'm happier now than I was when I was a new devotee. Eternally, every day you'll be happier if you're Krishna conscious. That's an interesting concept also, right? So if you don't understand something, don't be discouraged. Take it in a positive way, that this is so transcendental and I'm not. And that's why I don't completely understand it. And as I become more transcendental, it'll be revealed. That's what Prabhupada said all the time. In your present condition, you cannot understand. Continue this process. Someday it will be revealed. That wasn't not a cop-out answer. It was just a fact that Prabhupada knew. However he tried to explain it, it wouldn't be properly understood. And that's how Prabhupada ended the discussion on the fall with the jiva. It's like, okay, let's just end it because it doesn't matter and you're not going to understand this correctly anyway. And Prabhupada was trying to explain it. And if you read Prabhupada's explanations after a while, you'll think, does he mean this or does he mean that? And you realize, this is not so straightforward, and that's why sometimes there's confusion. And Prabhupada is admitting it also. He said, "Yeah, you think this or that." It's just like it's time to go. You may think this or that, but it's time to go on Sankirtan. So put your what do you call your shoes? Cross trainers on and get out there and distribute books. Of course, now you can't go out there. Although Gopi Jivana went out on Harinam and Johannesburg. I guess you can go there. So, you understand? Aside from what we personally feel. No, I know if we misunderstand something, it seems like, in Prabhupada saying it doesn't matter if you understand it, it seems like, well, that's strange, because it's a Siddhanta we don't understand. And it seems, from my understanding, the way Prabhupada's writing it, is he said, it's kind of like a Siddhanta you'll never actually, you think you understand it, but it's actually so deep, you'll never really understand it, so why bother? Why waste your time? It's like, you'll never perfectly understand this. And even if you understand it and articulate it, there's more to it. So because there's more to it, we'll never, you'll understand it when you understand it, according to your advancement. So I can't say that's true for everything and everyone, but generally that was a general tenor of some things that Prabhupada saw his disciples were not understanding. And he didn't, and in some cases he didn't think it was really that important to precisely explain it. Because he said, eventually, well, it'll be revealed, or it doesn't matter, or just go on with your devotional service. So that's a very broad general answer that doesn't necessarily specifically deal with every detail of a philosophy, but nonetheless, that is a common way Prabhupada explained things. You're thinking, Prabhupada saying, don't bother about Raganuga-Bhakti, it'll be revealed. And say, but wait a minute, you talk about it in your books, and there are other books. Vishwanath Chakravarti wrote a whole book on it. And, we can discuss this and learn it, and shouldn't we learn it and know the details, and how are we going to practice it? And Prabhupada saying, basically, don't worry about it. It'll be revealed through your advancement. Well, that's an interesting answer, isn't it? Prabhupada, what about rasa? Don't worry about it, it'll be revealed. And then you go to Radha Kund, and no, you have to worry about your rasa. Here, I'm going to give you your rasa. No, you have to start practicing Raganuga-Bhakti. You have to understand it. So you have these, some people may say, well, Prabhupada's mood is different, or he really didn't mean that, or you're really supposed to do it, or he couldn't tell us because we were young devotees. And yeah, maybe. But at the same time, why can't we have faith that he'll reveal everything as we need to know it? I mean, that's a laudable way to understand something, isn't it? So, I hope you're not more confused than when we started. Okay, if you are confused, just put in the comments, I am confused, and tell me why you're confused, and we'll see if we can unconfuse you. Vijay Lakshmi says, but I'm surrounded by people who are happy with the situation they are in, materially very comfortable, yeah, for a while. It's not like when we say the material world's a place of misery, we don't mean it in real time, moment to moment. In real time, moment to moment, there are a lot of people that are quite comfortable, and there are a lot of people that are happy. It's by nature. Do you know, Vijay Lakshmi, that they say 50% of your happiness is genetic? Like you're just genetically disposed. Like some people, they're like always happy, and some people are always not happy. So I think they say 50% is genetic, and the other 50% you work on, or the other 40%, or 10% is environment, 50% is genetic, and the other 40% you work on. Some figure like that. But the point is, even if it's 10% genetic, the point is some people are predisposed to being happy. They'll just be happy anywhere. But from a Krishna conscious perspective, we don't say people are not happy. At least we don't say people do not think they're happy. And we don't even say there is no happiness, because there is the illusion of happiness. And as you're pointing out, these people are in the illusion of happiness. They're experiencing what they would call happiness. They have a very comfortable life. They're well off. They have a nice family. Kids are doing well. They have grandkids. They're living off pensions or investments. They have a nice home, a nice part of town. Everything is like, they have their routine. Life is simple. I acknowledge that. But when we say misery, we say, when people say I'm happy, I said, oh, everything is fine. I go, and then I say, wait a minute. Do you mean to tell me you're not getting old? You mean to tell me you don't get diseased? You mean to tell me you're never going to die? I mean, you said everything is fine. But if everything is fine, that would have to include not getting old, not getting diseased, not dying, and so many other situations that potentially could be disturbing, which are always lurking around the corner, isn't it? Like, at any moment, you don't know if you're going to get in an accident or get a phone call that your uncle just died. And, so you could add to the list. You mean your relatives don't die? You mean nobody in your family dies? You mean you never got in an accident? You never sprained your ankle or broke a bone? And they'll say, no, I don't mean that. I mean right now, my life is comfortable. I go, yeah, I understand that. But when Krishna says it's a place of misery, he's talking about context, not necessarily day to day. And that's where people misunderstand. It's like saying my life in the prison is good, So some prisons, they're kind of nice. You got some good friends, you got a gym, you go to classes, you go outside, you play sports. It's good. You don't have to work. They feed you, they give you a roof, they give you clothes. For some people, that was better than the life they lived before they were in prison. I was told some people commit crimes because they want to stay in prison because life outside prison is more difficult. And we're thinking as free people, we're thinking that's crazy. Say, I understand that, but they're saying, look, I play basketball 2 hours a day with my buddies. And then I go classes, I'm learning a trade. When I get out of prison, I'll be a car mechanic or I'll be a computer programmer. We have a game room, we have a band. Food's not bad. I like my jailmate. And we're thinking, yeah, that's okay, but you're in prison. I mean, come on. There's a big barbed wire fence around you. And you have limitations of what you can do. You're in prison. So it's the same thing. Okay, your life is good. You have this and that. But you're in prison. You're getting old. You have a fence around you. What is it? It's old birth, old age, disease, and death. So that's the context, and that's where the illusion comes. And so if we are ever to convince people who are happy that there's something else, we have to explain this. And in addition, you have to explain that there is a place where this doesn't exist. So when we say you're in misery, it's relative because you may not understand your misery until you understand there's a place where the misery that you're not experiencing at this moment but will potentially be there doesn't exist at all. There is a place where there is no unhappiness. There's a place where you don't have to work. There's a place where real love actually exists and it grows every day. So in comparison to that, then the good of this world doesn't look good anymore. We've talked about this a lot. How something which is good no longer looks good when you place it against something that's really good. Isn't it? You all have that experience. You're eating something. Wow, this kofta is really good. And then one day you get kofta that's much, much better. And then you eat it, and then you realize this kofta is so good that the other kofta that I thought was good, I realized it really wasn't that good. So that's also how we have to help people understand. There's something that's so much better than this. Of course, they'll say, but it's good enough for me. Oh, you don't mind getting old? Excuse me, ma'am, do you like gray hair? You like wrinkles? I don't think so. You like arthritis? Because that's what's on the schedule. That's what's on the calendar, You're only 25 now. Let's go to the calendar of 42. That's when it all those wrinkles start setting in, isn't it? Around 42, despite all the money you've spent on cosmetics, unless you have surgery. You can count on, put it on your calendar. And the gray hair, when does that start? I don't know, different for different people. I don't know because I don't have any hair, I don't notice. But, gray hair start 50, 60, 70. Put it on the schedule. And, the knee replacement, you can put that on the schedule. Or, the arthritis, you can put that on the schedule. The heart trouble, put it all on the schedule, So to say everything's fine, it's like, no. Everything's on the schedule. There was a song that said everybody's waiting in line to die. So it's true. And we're waiting in line to get our arthritis or heart disease or cancer or whatever it is, and we're waiting in line for so many things. Ladies, I hate to tell you, but, if you're still young, you're waiting in line for wrinkles and gray hair and arthritis and whatever else you're going to get. Depressing, isn't it? Oh my God! Right? Raise your hand if you like wrinkles. Raise your hand if you like gray hair. I don't think anyone, well, maybe a few women don't care, but most women and men don't like it. But it's on the calendar. It's going to happen. So all this, I'm happy. Okay, fine. But let's look what's on the calendar. And let's look what's real happiness is. And let's understand the context. You're in jail, but there's things on the calendar in jail that aren't looking good. Okay, so you're on death row and you're happy. You're playing basketball and you're going to be, electrocuted tomorrow and you're having a great day. Okay, people will think there's something wrong with you. Right? I think so. Maybe they need a little more taste of Maya. Yeah. If they're ready for their spiritual life, Krishna will be kind to them. They worship Krishna and demigods for physical and material wealth and well-being. Yeah. That means they're bona fide inmates of the prison of the material world. That's what bona fide inmates of the material world do. They worship gods and goddesses for material well-being. Ananda Sham says, there is a perfect quantity of happiness and suffering available for each one in order he can understand the meaning of lifetime in the material world. And unfortunately, you need some piety and some intelligence and some kind of spiritual asset to be able to put it all together and understand. Because most people are very determined to enjoy, so when there's setbacks, they just keep pushing. They don't think, maybe I should do something else. They keep pushing, isn't it? And you're thinking, why are you pushing? You should understand the message. And to them, the message is you have to push harder, right? And you can go to many workshops, and that's what they'll tell you. At the other extreme, we have the poor who want material comforts and live in reverential fear of God, who is their giver of health. My house help is resigned to the fact that she will suffer as long as there is Kali Yuga. Well, it is true, but what she needs to understand is that she can be spiritually advanced in any material condition, and that she just has to accept her material condition as a result of past karma, where probably she maybe was wealthy and misused it, and now is lacking wealth. And maybe she exploited people, and now she has to work hard. But for a devotee doesn't really see his material condition as like a blessing or a curse, so to speak. He may see a bad material condition as a blessing, and he may say a good material condition as a curse, but he doesn't see it like ordinary people would see it, because he understands his Krishna consciousness is not dependent on that. And so there's just by stating these things, Vijaya Lakshmi, we can see all the ignorance that exists, especially in India. There's ignorance is amazingly thick, because you would expect people would understand more. And it just shows us that we have a lot of work to do in educating people. Krishna Karshani says, I notice from experience that those who are difficult to preach to are those who are too satisfied or too depressed. Yeah, that's true, both. Those in the middle are the best to preach to. Those who are suffering too much are often so focused on the pain they're experiencing that they're not eager to get to spiritual life. That's my experience. Maybe you, Marsh. Yeah. I think that's a good general assessment, although sometimes people are happy, but they have a really good life and they're really happy, but inside they're not. And so, although you meet them and you say, you seem like a happy person. I was like that. If you met me as as a non-devotee, you would think, why would you want to become a devotee? You're happy. I thought I had a really good life, had it made, so to speak. But internally, there was this knowledge that I needed, and there was this knowledge that I knew what was making me happy was not ultimately satisfying me. There must be something deeper and greater. So although externally I was happy, and I wouldn't say existentially I was suffering, I would say internally I was suffering for a lack of knowledge, a lack of being able to find that deeper happiness. So I was actually happy, but I understood it was shallow and there was something deeper. So sometimes you get that experience. And so the happy, comfortable people are happy and comfortable, but internally they're not completely satisfied. And then, as you know, sometimes you get the extremely frustrated people who, in desperation, turn to God. And then, as we said, you get the happy people who are just happy and not interested in the spiritual life, and the people who are too distressed to be able to think about anything other than getting out of distress. But, Krishna Karshana, I've also observed, and Prabhupada writes about this in his books, that in distress, if someone is pious, they'll tend to turn towards God. If they're impious, they'll tend to become atheists. So we have to throw that into the mix. People were imprisoned in concentration camps, but not everyone lost their faith in God. Many people's faith increased. They needed God more. So, it's hard to generalize what will happen because it depends on the level of piety of the person. And pious people in distress will turn to God. I don't know if I told you this story yesterday. This devotee was asking me, he said, I'm just interested in what your life was like before you were a devotee. And just the other day, I don't know why I was remembering this story. I was remembering it, thinking how bad boys are, the bad things they do. And in my neighborhood, there were a lot of peach trees. And so our houses were up on hills like this, and the street was down. So you could get up on the house. You'd be above the cars, maybe the hills were 5-10 feet above the cars. And we get these peaches, and when the cars would drive by, we'd throw them at the cars so the peach would just splat on the windshield. And then we upgraded to rocks. And then I remember this. I can't forget this. It's indelibly printed in my memory that I threw a rock, and because I was pretty good in sports, I hit that rock right on the guy's windshield, and it cracked it. And the guy immediately stopped, and I ran. Oh, God, save me. Oh, God, save me. Please save me. I'll never do this again. Don't let him catch me. Oh, God. Immediately, that's how I was praying, right? And Krishna reciprocated, and he never caught me. To this day, he's still looking for me. I got to find that kid who threw that rock. We're going to take him to the police. He's still looking for me. I skipped town so I wouldn't get caught by him. And then behind my house, there was a brick wall. And every house had a brick wall. Because it's interesting, because behind my house, the house behind me, it was up on a hill. So their wall started where our wall ended. They were 20 feet up. Their backyard was 20 feet up from ours. So we had this wall. So everybody had a wall just to make a demarcation between that and the property, your neighbor. Your wall was right. Your backyard was their backyard also. And so we used to have fun, and we'd walk on these walls. You could walk down the whole block, this long block. You could walk down the whole block on people's walls. And if you fell, you get hurt because the walls were 5-6 feet. And I used to climb the walls. I used to love to climb the walls. And some places were dangerous, and I used to think, God will protect me. Now you might say, oh, you must have had very religious parents. No, I did not. They never taught me God will protect me. They never taught me to pray to God. I just did. That's how I was. That's how I was born. I was born praying to God. And we did a yoga retreat once, and in the world of yoga, sometimes, don't say God because they don't like that. Just say the divine or say source. I'm all right. I just feel Why do I want to talk to people and I can't even say the word God without them, having allergy attacks? So, we were, talking and talking, the spiritual, the divine. You say everything but God, but it's like, duh, who am I talking about? We know who you're talking about, but just don't say the word God because that's like a bad word. And there was one lady from the Philippines, right? And whatever we were saying, she just got it. She was like, yeah, when I was a girl, we used to pray like that. And everyone else was like into yoga and this and that. And like, I could see the religious piety of that lady was different than the other people. And therefore, she could understand things differently and she would gravitate in times of difficulty to God naturally. Whereas the other people, I don't think they would. They might just become agnostic. Where's God? Why would God allow this? So I think we have to add that into the equation. The past piety of a person will cause them to take shelter of God in situations where other people wouldn't. So now you know everything about my past and you're thinking, oh my Govinda, he threw rocks at cars. He was like a little Vena. No, actually, I only did it once. I was a nice boy. I got carried away. It was like peaches to rocks. That was like a big upgrade. And I thought, but we only did it once. We regret it. We asked for forgiveness, and we never did it again. So that was my great sin as a boy, throwing rocks at cars. Yeah. Oh, that's the way. That's just the way it is. Yeah. There was another song. There was another song when I was a kid. I think that had some words like that. It's just the way it is. Some things will never change. Oh, that song. Yeah. That song. Yeah. It's just the way, yeah. Some things will never change. Yeah. Oh, we have Seymour. You got the more words here. Okay. Some things will never change. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. How can we know, Anuradha says, how can we know if our present situation is the result of our own desires or Krishna's arrangement? Generally, they work together. If you're a devotee, it's different. But see, the thing is, Krishna doesn't put you in situations that would cause you to fall down. We put ourselves in situations. So how do I know this is my own desire? Because it's a situation that's not favorable. But Krishna creates a situation, you get slapped, which is favorable, generally. And even if you say, well, it was my own desire created this situation and I did something wrong and I'm getting slapped, but you could also say, but Krishna is arranging the slapping because you need it. So if you ever need slapping and you realize that the slapping is helping you, it's Krishna's mercy that even if you did something wrong, he's slapping you in a way that will help you. So generally for a devotee, if anything brings you closer to Krishna, you can say Krishna was involved. And if anything doesn't bring you closer to Krishna, you can say Maya was involved, my own desire was involved, because Krishna would never do anything that would cause you to turn away from him, unless you want it, desperately want it, you're convinced, you're determined, this is what you want, then he'll say, okay, I'll let you fall on your face if that's what you want. So sometimes you can just know, you can just tell, wow, that was Krishna's arrangement. I was going to go here, but I couldn't go here, and now I realize if I would have went here, I probably would have fell into total Maya. And that day the buses didn't go there, or I fell asleep on the bus, and then I got off like 3 miles later, then it was too late to go to that place, and you realize Krishna did that. That wasn't just my negligence. Krishna actually did that to save me. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but sometimes it happens like that, and sometimes it's so obvious that Krishna did that. Oh, I have a story. Oh, this is a good story. I've told this story before. This is really interesting. So years ago in our temple in San Diego, which was by the beach, it was by the beach, and there's a lot of kids by the beach, and there's a lot of people who just come in. And this one girl started coming. She was very friendly, very just like one of the most friendly girls I've ever seen. She's probably like 20 or 21, like super, super friendly and very interested in Krishna consciousness. and very helpful. So, can I do some service? Can I help you? And in that culture in America, or not in that culture, in our culture in America, girls and boys don't discriminate. So I say, can I help you? Go up to boys. Can I help you clean? And like, oh, okay. So she's working with the boys, and she's just, just being friendly and helpful. There was one problem. She was a little too friendly. But there was a bigger problem. She was really beautiful. And so when I was thinking, something's going to happen. She's too friendly and too beautiful. Friendly and ugly, beautiful and not friendly, okay. But friendly and beautiful, dangerous combination. And she was really she was in the top 10 percentile of attractiveness, like extraordinarily attractive. And usually women like that are a little standoffish, proud, don't talk to me, I'm beautiful. She was opposite. She was just down to earth. And I was thinking, I don't have a good feeling about this, but I don't, we want everyone to be Krishna conscious. And I was one day talking to her in a room, preaching to her in a room. And, she's very open. Everything was going nicely. And we had some problem with a devotee who did something, didn't pay his rent or left an apartment without paying the rent and left the apartment. And someone came up to me and said, we have to deal with this problem. So-and-so Prabhu did this. It was something really horrible. And when that girl heard that, she said, okay, thank you. I think I have to go now. She left and never came back because she didn't want to be, it freaked her out. She said, is this what goes on in the Hare Krishna movement? And she just left and never came back. And I thought, okay, Krishna did that because Krishna knew the danger. And I was thinking, okay, I'm talking to her, and I'm not Takaharidas yet. I'm working on it, but not yet. I was probably 32 or something like that. And then she left, and I was like, okay, I guess Krishna said, that's enough time with that woman, anymore, and your mind might start getting disturbed. And definitely that's it for all the brahmacharis who probably definitely are already disturbed. And I just saw that. It's when that happened, I was like, there's no way that ever happens when you're sitting preaching to someone that somebody comes, devotee tells you about some horrible thing, horrible emergency that we have to take care of because a devotee did such a horrible thing, stole money, lied, cheated. And this girl was like, oh my God. She didn't say that. She just practically, after he came in, she said, I got to go now. She said something like, that's horrible. Just let me out of here, And so when something like that happens, oh, that's definitely Krishna's arrangement. Krishna just, So when you see something, it's kind of out of the ordinary, and it was and you realize that I was just protected. Krishna, thank you. You protected me because I potentially could have really done something wrong. Then But if you're focused on sense gratification and you just do it and then you suffer, it may be Krishna's mercy that you're suffering, but I would say you did the wrong thing, you're getting the reaction. You'll have to judge. Sometimes it's less obvious, sometimes it's more obvious. But as we said a few weeks ago, don't blame Krishna for your Maya. Say, I did this and Krishna sent me suffering. It may be that he didn't send you suffering, you just caused it because you did something wrong. So, but maybe the best way to answer your question, Anuradha, is whatever suffering comes, take advantage of it. However it came, you may not always know in every situation, but take advantage of it because it can help you. And just say, Krishna, thank you. Thank you for that. That really helped me. Phil Collins song? No, there's another one. Maybe that's a Phil Collins, but there's another one. Oh, maybe, just the way it is. Isn't it interesting how songs sometimes they relate to the human experience so well? It's like, There's one by Phil Collins and one by Bruce Hampshire. And arranged, which was also a sample of Tupac songs, Collins. Oh yeah, so it's universal wisdom that, you know, when a devotee says that's just the way it is, he's talking about tolerance. You can say that's just the way it is, and that can simply be ignorance, that you just like don't do anything. So sometimes tolerance. Did you know that sometimes tolerance is actually coming from the mode of ignorance? Did you know that? Oh, whatever, it's just the way it is. No, you should learn from that. Yes, tolerate it, that's the way it is. But learn that that's the nature of the material world. Well, I just tolerate, I don't care. Then all the misery comes and you don't take advantage of it, to think, no, there must be a better world. Bhakti Vinod, Mr. Brian Bhakti, all the way from Scotland. Great to hear you and see preaching you an inspiration, great example for me to follow. Aspire to do what you're doing. Bhakti Vinod, Ki Jai. Bhakti Vinod is a real Scotsman. He's such a Scotsman that when he speaks, I have to listen really carefully so I understand everything he's saying. Ankush says, does that mean we should not read 10th canto of Bhagavatam? Yes. This is really interesting. This is one of those interesting things in Krishna consciousness. Should I read the 10th canto or shouldn't I? Now, one might say, well, if you read the Krishna book, because it's all philosophy. Then one might say, but don't read the Rasa Leela, because if you have any sex desire, you'll misunderstand it, and then rather than benefit, it'll be worse. But then Prabhupada says, if you have sex desire, the cure is to read Rasa Leela. You have to be qualified to read, you have to be pure and qualified to read Rasa Leela. But if you're sexually agitated, you should read Rasa Leela. Okay, go home and figure that one out, and we'll talk to you tomorrow about it. It's one of those things. Now, okay, we'll answer it. I don't want to put you in anxiety for the next 23 hours or 22 hours and 45 minutes until tomorrow's class. Man, in tomorrow's class, we won't even talk about it, so add another 24 to it. Isn't that, you find that interesting statement? So, Prabhupada has said many times, the cure for sexual desire is deity worship, hearing about the gopis. So, in Krishna's activities, what does he mean? It means that's pure love. It has nothing to do with sex. And so, if you hear about it, and you hear about it properly in the right mood, and you do deity worship properly in the right mood, you will understand this is real. This is the real love. And what I'm doing is a total perversion imitation. And therefore, I'll get purified by being in contact with real love. The idea of don't read it or be careful when you read it and don't read it too much and all that is like if you're not on that level where you can have some understanding that this is pure love, it might backfire. And so the answer to your question is, if you're reading the 10th canto, of course 10th canto is fine. We're just talking about pastimes with the gopis. If you're reading it and you're going more deeply into understanding what is love of Krishna, because that's what the gopis demonstrate, and you're feeling purified, then of course read it. But don't think, oh, now I'm a gopi and I understand everything. Or don't think, well, now I'll just read about the gopis because it's the highest. That would be a mistake. But it's part of the reading, so you read through it. But if you feel like if I read about Krishna and the gopis, it just disturbs my mind, then yeah, you're not qualified to read it. But understand at the same time, it's the medicine to cure that problem. So that's the catch-22. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? The very thing that Prabhupada said, yeah, it will purify you, but it can also putrefy you if that's all you do is hear, and at the same time you're still like obsessively attached to women. Then by hearing, you're going to become more attached to women. So if you're hearing and you're hearing about Radha and Krishna and you end up thinking about sex, yeah, close that chapter. Don't read it. You're not qualified. I told you this story, an amazing story of this godbrother. I haven't seen him in decades, at least 3 or 4. He was quite a character. To protect the innocent, I will not mention his name. And I've told this story before, but I think most of you haven't heard it. One day he told me, he said, I had a dream. I had a dream last night that I had taken Krishna off the altar and I was standing in his place enjoying Radharani. Hare Krishna! Just to hear that is like sickening, isn't it? I mean, he was honest. He admitted it. He was challenged in his Krishna consciousness. He had a lot of challenges in his Krishna consciousness. I'm sure we've all had bad dreams. I never heard anyone have a dream like that. Of course, you could say, yeah, but we're all trying to do that anyway. So whether I dream about a relationship with a woman or I dream about this or that, it's the same thing. Yeah, you could say that, but it's still not exactly the same thing. I want to imitate Krishna, but I don't want to go on the altar and enjoy Radharani. So my point of saying that is, if a person is in that state, they're not qualified to hear about Radha and Krishna, because by hearing about it, they'll just want to be Krishna. And there are a lot of people that hearing Rasa Leela say, well, okay, he's God and he's doing that, so he's setting the example, so we're going to do it. Do you know that? People say that? Yeah, so those people should not hear 10th canto. Those people should take a bucket of cold water and pour it on their head. They need help. But they say that. It's a whole sampradaya. It's a whole philosophy. Or there are all kinds of crazy ideas. There's no shortage of misconceptions of Bhagavatam. So that's the answer, yeah. So if one is if one is reading those Leelas and getting purified, keep reading them. It's helpful. If one is reading them and getting sexually agitated, no way. You're not qualified. Just keep chanting and praying. Hare Krishna. John from Maine. Yogi John from Maine is with us. Yogi John, you can make comments. We look forward to your comments because you're a wise man. Yogi John is a wise man with a lot of experience with spirituality that could give us insight. And I'm sure Yogi John, when you're listening to all this conversation, you're probably thinking, oh my Govinda, that's all the kind of stuff we used to discuss when I was a Jesuit. The same problems in theology and disagreements, and this side thinks this, and this verse that, and this verse this, but what about this? Isn't it the same? Like all religious movements have these dilemmas. I mean, look at Islam, the religion of peace, and they make sense out of that. And some people say, no, there's so many verses where Muhammad said, got to fight for your rights. And other people saying, no, he was a peacemaker. And you're like, you got to resolve all this. Listen to Krishna Leela, it'll purify you. Listen to Krishna Leela, it'll putrefy you. Okay, you have to make sense of it all. So this is from Krishna Kanta, Gopalini, KKGPDD for short. But that's almost as many syllables. And it's hard to remember. KKGPDD. KKGPDD. Okay. I got it. KKGPDD says, how can we see that we are making spiritual advancement? Sometimes I don't know if I understand the philosophy in the intellectual level, and sometimes I feel I will never understand. Understand the philosophy and the intellectual level. Sometimes I feel I'll never understand things. By the way, this mic is really nice. It adds more depth to your voice. Yeah, because it's closer. And if I EQ this mic is the little brother of a very expensive radio mic. If I EQ'd it, it would sound like that. A better mic. Yeah, this is welcome to Mahatma Das's podcast. Yeah, the other mic is, yeah, okay, so I can use this. I got this so I could put air conditioning on and you wouldn't hear it loudly, but this arm kind of gets in the way. But anyway, if you like it, we'll use it. This is the microphone that is generally used for miking guitar cabinets. That's what they put in front of guitar cabinets. And miking Congo drums. That's what it's typically used for. But little do people know, it's a really good mic for voice. Only the insiders know that. I have a better mic than this, KKGPD. I have a better mic than this. You want me to bring it out tomorrow? Then once you hear the better mic, then you'll say, yeah, that other mic wasn't that good. Hare Krishna. So, but we're going to answer your question because you actually asked the question. So sometimes I feel I don't understand the philosophy. Keep chanting, keep going. And it's also good to know what you don't understand, which is better than to think you understand something you don't know. And maybe we will never understand certain things, and I don't think if those things you don't understand are not essential to understand for your liberation, then Prabhupada would not be concerned if you understand like how the universe is created or where the jiva falls from or how your rasa is revealed, and like it's not like essential information according to Prabhupada. Others may say it is essential, but it's not. It's essential you're a servant, take shelter of the Vaishnavas, follow the principles. Those basic things definitely you have to understand, and understand basics of philosophy. The more you understand, the better, of course. If there's some details that are not clear, they may not be essential details necessary for your liberation. And often Prabhupada would say, well, what you don't know, Krishna will reveal. So if I were in your non-leather moccasins, we have a saying, you can't understand a man's suffering until you walk 10 miles in his moccasins. Moccasins are like these leather shoes Indians wear. They're just basically just leather. There's no hard bottom to them. It's just leather, like leather boots. So if I were in your moccasins, I would say pray. Pray to Krishna to help you understand. And Gopa, KKGPDD, I'm waiting for a cover to go over this, a windscreen. Then I can talk like this right into it without worrying about popping. Because right now if I talk this close and I say Prabhupada, boom, 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 you hear it. But when I put the screen on, it can be a real radio announcer. Okay, we actually didn't get time to read today. Jairadhe Dasi says, someone asked my father wondering about one's personal rasa with the Lord, and my father simply replied, just think and know you are a servant of Krishna, and that I servant of Krishna, and that is your relationship. The main thing is service. Yeah. Yeah. Prabhupada answered it like that also. That answers for those who are not in the position where they're going to understand their rasa, because right now your main rasa is to serve. And if you're in a very neophyte position, you think, I'm a friend, so you go up on the altar and instead of chanting the mantras, you go, hey buddy, here's your prasadam. Can I take a bite? Now, you could do that if you were on that level. But until you're on that level, you have to you're in the mood of servant, you chant the mantras and so forth. Or you make one offering and you eat it first, and you come on the altar and you go, Krishna, your prasadam was so good, I just ate it all. So I'll cook some more for you and I'll come back later. Yeah, you could do that if you're a friend. But in deity worship, you can't do that. So we definitely assume the role of servant. And even in Raganuga-Bhakti, you follow externally the same principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. Although internally you may think Krishna is your friend, you're not going to say, here's your prasadam, talk to you later, have a good meal. You're going to say, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya. You're going to do that. So it's true. Prabhupada did say that. But of course, whatever your rasa is, the fundamental is always service. So we say, well, you can be in servitude. And does it mean that when you're in Sakya or Vatsalya or Madhurya, you're not in servitude? No, it just means in servitude, that's all you are. There's no friendship or parental. But it doesn't mean when you get in those other relationships that there's no servitude. Okay, now I'm the boss, Krishna's going to serve me. Mm-mm. No, don't think like that. That's the disease. Okay. We have a question from Mexico from I can't read the name. Ethel? How can I become qualified? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sincerely. You know, Ethel, you can chant the holy name and pray with this question. Or not the question, Krishna, please make me qualified. Krishna, please show me how to become qualified. Because sometimes when you pray for something, sometimes it doesn't always come from within, but Krishna creates a situation where he fulfills that desire. How can I become qualified? Well, maybe you will get the association of people who will make you qualified. You will get to hear from people who can help you become qualified. It may come in many ways. You will get internal guidance, what's right, what's wrong. So there's all kinds of ways it can come. My favorite actor, Jim Carrey, said that he wishes all people of the world to get all the money and success they want, so they will have a chance to realize that those things are not giving happiness. I love that. I love that. And all the poor people are saying, I'll take it. I'll take the money and be unhappy. So maybe, I'm trying to do this with my left hand. I'm not doing good. Oh, wow. 3 attempts on C more, and I still can't get it. Bad. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. I tried 3 times and I couldn't do it. Okay. So, everyone will get rich, so they realize they won't give them happiness. So maybe it's good for us that we will achieve what we want so we can realize that it won't make us happy, and we'll be more focused and determined in our spiritual practice. My point is that so-called happiness might be also helpful, not only suffering. Yes, for some, but not yes for everyone. Because the smart people, or the people who have experienced enough suffering, realize that, so they don't need it. Like there was this, when we joined, I would say 99.9999999% of the devotees who joined were pretty much hippies, which means they've all taken psychedelic drugs. You know, okay, maybe 99.9 is a little too much, but most, if you know. I can't really think, when I first became a devotee, I can't think of anybody who really wasn't a hippie. Maybe they didn't all take LSD, but they all were smoking marijuana. And most of them took LSD. So this one boy joined, and then he said, I'm leaving. We said, why? He said, because you all had illicit sex and LSD, and I didn't. And you're all renounced, and I'm not. So I'm going to go out and do it and get frustrated. And so there is some truth to that. Of course, if he would have told that to Prabhupada, Prabhupada wouldn't have told him to go out and do it, unless he was determined. And Prabhupada would have said, all right, do whatever you want. So there's truth to what you're saying, but there's also truth to the other idea, that if you're intelligent and you hear that this is a cause of suffering, then you'll give it up. But I would say, in more developed countries, wealthier countries like America, you don't have to do that because you've already had it nice growing up. So there is some truth, but a better way to state that would be, don't go out and enjoy sense gratification, but get what you need. Get what you need to live the life you need. That's what I would say. So have what you need to fulfill that side of your life so you don't go crazy. Just like you're a musician. So, you get a keyboard, get this, get what you need to fulfill that. Or you're an artist, get what you need to fulfill that. Use it for Krishna. Yeah, that's definitely a fact. But the problem with going out, I'm going to go out and enjoy so much that I'll become frustrated and become more Krishna conscious. No, it may not happen that way. It only happens if it's regulated and controlled. If you just go out to exploit it, it may destroy you, or it may addict you to sense gratification. Then you come back, you're trying to be a devotee, and say, I'm addicted to sense gratification. So you have to be careful with that philosophy because it can backfire. Mention the change in the time for Friday. Okay, so Friday morning at 8 o'clock, which is the time in Alachua that we start this class, I have two disciples, Kamal and Priya from London, who are getting married, and they asked if I would speak a little bit about, I don't know, I guess I'll speak about marriage since it's a wedding. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Although with me, you never know what I'm going to speak about. Even I don't know what I'm going to speak about until I start speaking. But probably I'll speak about marriage since it's a wedding. But don't count on it. Anything goes. So the idea was that I would speak for 5, 10, 15 minutes at 8 o'clock. But I've never seen a bride arrive on time. So I told them, I will start class at 8:30, just in case she's not on time and technical difficulties with Zoom and so forth. So class on Friday will start at 8:30, not 8 o'clock. If you know anyone that's not here, that normally comes, please let them know. And we'll also put that on Facebook. Right up here, we'll put that on Facebook. And thanks for reminding me because I would have forgotten. That's Friday, this coming Friday. We will start class at 8:30, not 8 o'clock. That's a half hour later than we normally start. Yeah, so I should just say, we'll start class a half hour later than normal. That's easier for you to understand. Like today, live on Facebook every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thursday is supposed to also go live on Facebook. Oh, not live on Facebook, but it will go on Facebook. Yeah. But Thursday, we're going to talk. Not sure what we're talking about tomorrow. I think we're still talking about separation. Hearing now is so nice. It is the same. So Krista says when I give classes on Zoom, you can get notifications on your WhatsApp for them on mahatmadas.com website. Join our WhatsApp group. If you're not on our WhatsApp group, join it. You will like it. We can change. In the spiritual world, we have a fixed form. Oh, this is another interesting question. Can we change form in the spiritual world? It's one of those, yes, it's dynamic, but no, it won't happen. But Prabhupada did say that Vaikuntha residents could go to Braja, Goloka Vrindavan, and Prabhupada, when he was asked this question, it was like, yeah, you could change, but your rasa is perfect, so why would you want to change? So the answer was, you could, but nobody does, which is kind of like saying you can't change. But he didn't want to say you can't, because you have free will and it's dynamic. So he said you could, but why would you want to? Your rasa is already perfect. But now you're here down in this world, then things may be a little different. At least you got Lord Chaitanya's mercy. That's a big upgrade that harder to get in Vaikuntha. You get it here. So in a sense, we made a good decision in coming to the material world, and then we get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Yeah, Sardi Rasa says, to that question, Christe was saying, well, we've already been here and we have experience of all these pleasures. Yeah, the problem is sometimes we forget and we still want more. There's only the need to, but what Sardiya Rasa is saying is true. But you do find devotees who just like go out. Like, I can't do this. I have to go out. And they go out and they hit rock bottom and they come back and say, okay, now I'm ready. Like 20 years later for some. So, it's not the recommended process. We would rather tell them what Sardiya Rasa just said. But sometimes they just have to go through what they have to go through. Jenny will also send it out on the WhatsApp and Telegram. That, in theory, is true. If Radhapriya does her job, Jenny will send it out. The website may have the wrong WhatsApp number. I'll check. Meanwhile, my daily videos has the WhatsApp number at the end. A Telegram group, yeah. If we have the wrong WhatsApp number, then Mahatma Enterprises is in trouble. The only thing we have not done nor experienced is being fully surrendered to Krishna. Yeah. Hey, excuse me, so you want to do something you've never done before? It's amazing. Yeah, what is it? Surrender to God. Hey, KK, GPDD, that's a great t-shirt. Do something you've never done before. Surrender to God. I like that. You want to do something you've never done before? Yeah, what is it? Tell me. And you, this is amazing. You've never done this before, ever. This is amazing. What is it? Tell me. I want to do it. Surrender to God. Like, could make a little drama out of that. And after they say surrender to God, there's some little sound like that. That is funny. That would make a good cartoon also. You guys going to let me out of here? Okay, you're letting me out of here. How can I join your WhatsApp group? In theory, you go to the website and it's there. And Radhapriya, you probably have the number, right? Then you write the number that's there. You write Jenny as she manages it, and then she'll put you on the group. Sardi, you want to make the t-shirt? Okay. We have a site. Oh, I just we got this site. Krishna Kanta found the site, and now we're designing t-shirts and putting them up. And it also, they have hoodies and cups and everything. And so we don't have to pay until the t-shirt is sold. So we're going to have a whole t-shirt store. So Sardiya Rasa, if you want to design the t-shirt, you might be able to design it on the site or get a graphic designer or design it yourself and then send it to me so we can discuss the design. And any of you can design t-shirts, because I think we can have different t-shirts with the same text on it, for variety. That's just the way it is. Yeah, Tupac. I guess there's a lot of That's Just the Way It Is songs, huh? Okay. This lemon water, it's lemons and water, has been sitting around for like 36 hours, and I think if I drink it now, I could be breaking the regulative principle, so I'm not going to drink it. Hare Krishna. You want to do the new Sankirtan line? Excuse me, sir, you want to do something you've never done before? It is amazing. I'm like, oh yeah, what is it? Surrender to God. And then they run away. Okay, it's time to turn on the AC because I'm sweating. And the only problem with this AC is that I figured it leaks about a half a gallon of water a day. And I'm trying to do something about it, but I'm not sure what to do yet. We're still contemplating. I don't know. I need your opinion. I can replace this for probably $200 or $300, but it's going to be loud, and I have to keep turning it off sometimes to do things, and then I have this buzz behind class. Or I could get a whole proper system, but that's going to cost $3,700, which means I have to pay a monthly payment for the next 5 years, or I'll go to debtor's prison. What do you think I should do? Can I justify spending that much money? My wife says yes. The bank account says no. What to do? But anyway, I'm going to, you all meditate on it and you let me know what I should do. But I have to do something soon. Okay. Hare Krishna to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. I knew you were going to say, not that bad with the AC sound. Unless you come here and try to talk on the phone and realize you can't. Or I do my, like this, the calls on Zoom, and I have to hear what they're saying when I have the AC on. It's really hard to hear them. It's like, what did you say? Can you say that again? Say, all right, I could wear headphones, I guess. Yeah. I could get by without it, but it's not best. Okay. Kamalakshi Radhika, Greece and my wife. Okay, you're born from the same mode. The sound is cool now. Yeah, it's in the key of C, the sound. See? Listen to the... Can you hear the sound on the keyboard? They're in the same key. It's not bad, but I have the fan on low, and in the afternoon, a low fan does not cool the room down, and so you have to turn it up, and it's louder. Yeah. Proper would be nice. If the money were there, I wouldn't even think about it. But then when it's not there, I think, is it justified to spend that much money? Because that money you could use for a lot of other things that may be better. That's my dilemma. And my father was very thrifty, so it's in my blood, like, not to spend money on myself so easily. He had a lot of money, and he never spent it. So that's in my blood. All right, you help me think. Until tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow at 7. Hare Krishna.